It starts on an ordinary September night in 1991 in Arlington, Texas. 25-year-old Cynthia Gonzalez leaves her home, expecting to come back. She doesn't. By the next day, her family feels that creeping fear that something is wrong. Her ex-husband goes to police and reports her missing. Days pass. No calls. No sign of her car pulling into the driveway. Just silence and worry thickening into dread. 5 days later, that dread becomes reality. In a rural stretch of Johnson County, off a lonely private property near County Road 313, someone finds a body. It's already decomposing in the Texas heat. The victim has been shot multiple times and left out there, discarded far from the neighborhood where she laughed, cooked, argued, and lived her life. Investigators use fingerprints to confirm what the family already fears. The body is Cynthia Gonzalez. Detectives start digging into her world. They learn Cynthia had a tight circle of friends, and one of them stands out, a woman named Janie Perkins. Police say the two women spent a lot of time together. But underneath the friendship, there was tension. They were romantically involved with the same man. Weeks before Cynthia's murder, that man told Perkins he was ending things with her and choosing Cynthia instead. It's the kind of emotional triangle that can turn bitter, and detectives can't ignore it. As they interview people around Cynthia, a troubling picture starts to form. According to case files later described by police and reporters, Perkins can't give detectives a solid alibi for the night Cynthia disappeared. She agrees to take not one, but 2 voluntary polygraph tests, both of which she fails when asked if she killed Cynthia. Investigators say she even makes chilling comments, including that she was glad Cynthia was dead. But there's a problem. Polygraphs aren't admissible in court. And in the early 90s, without the kind of forensic breakthroughs we have today, that just isn't enough. Perkins denies any involvement. Detectives suspect her, but they can't make the case stick. The file slowly goes cold. For Cynthia's family, the years drag by. Her daughter, Jessica, is just 6 when her mother is killed. She grows up with questions instead of answers, with grief that never really fades, only changes shape. The case sits in a cabinet, one of many unsolved homicides. Detectives move on to new crimes, new emergencies. Every so often, someone opens that old file, hoping something jumps out. In 2024, Arlington police assign it to a current homicide detective for review, but there's still no breakthrough. 30 decades of waiting. Kara News. Then, in 2025, something unusual happens. At the University of Texas at Arlington, the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice launches a special cold case investigations class in partnership with the Arlington Police Department. 15 students are chosen and divided into 3 groups. Each group is handed a real, decades-old homicide, complete with thousands of pages of reports, lab work, and interviews. Cynthia Gonzalez's murder is one of those cases. For the first time, a classroom becomes part of a homicide investigation. The students who get Cynthia's case sit down with boxes of files and digital scans. They don't have access to physical evidence, but they do have every word written in the case. Witness statements, old reports, lab results, even notes showing early suspicions. For months, they sift through it all, highlighting, cross-referencing, building timelines on whiteboards. Slowly, one name keeps coming back, Janie Perkins. They notice what the original detective saw years earlier: no alibi, failed polygraphs, disturbing comments about being glad Cynthia was gone. They also see how the love triangle might have given a motive. As they dig deeper, the students start to feel something investigators know well. That moment when a person in the file stops being just another name and becomes the one you can't ignore. They draft a formal list of questions about Perkins and send it to the detectives overseeing the case. Why didn't she have an alibi? Were there other witnesses who mentioned her? Was there anything new since those early interviews? They're expecting a detailed reply, more threads to follow, maybe even more homework. Instead, they get something else. One day, the detective walks into class and tells them their questions didn't just sit in someone's inbox, they lit a fire. Arlington homicide detectives reopened the case with fresh eyes, now armed with both the students' analysis and modern investigative tools. As they pulled at those old threads, something new emerged. Witnesses came forward saying Perkins had told them she was involved in Cynthia's murder. Detectives compared those statements to the existing evidence and say everything started to line up. It was enough, they believed, to show that Perkins either participated or helped facilitate Cynthia's kidnapping and murder, and enough for prosecutors to move. In early November 2025, members of the U.S. Marshals North Texas Fugitive Task Force tracked Perkins down in Azle, Texas. She was arrested on November 6th and later booked into Tarrant County Jail on a charge of capital murder. According to reports, she was 63 years old at the time of her arrest and was eventually released after posting a $150,000 bond awaiting her day in court. From a legal perspective, this is where it's important to be clear. These are still allegations. Perkins has been charged, not convicted, and under the law, she is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Back at UT Arlington, the students who spent months combing through Cynthia's life and death watch a video message from detectives. The officer tells them that based on their work, an arrest warrant has been issued and that the marshals are outside Perkins' home, ready to take her into custody. The classroom erupts. There are tears, applause, disbelief. In that moment, they're not just students anymore. They're part of a 34-year-old promise finally being kept. For Cynthia's daughter, Jessica, the news brings a storm of emotions. Shock, relief, excitement, grief all over again. She says the pain never really went away. It only came in waves year after year. Now, for the first time, those waves carry something else with them, the possibility of justice. Today, the case of Cynthia Gonzalez is no longer just another cold file gathering dust. It's an example of what can happen when persistence, partnership, and fresh eyes come together. A young mother vanished in 1991. For 34 years, her family waited in the dark. And then a group of college students sitting in a classroom helped bring that story back into the light. The court system will decide what happens next, but for Cynthia, for Jessica, and everyone who loved her, the silence has finally been broken. October afternoon in 1987, along Flamingo Road in Davie, Florida. Drivers are passing by the canal like they do every day when one of them spots something strange near the waterline. At first, it looks like trash, a large black industrial-style bag, half floating, half caught in the reeds. But it's too big, too heavy, and it doesn't look like it washed there by accident. The driver calls police. When officers arrive and drag the bag out of the canal, they realize immediately this is not just a missing person case. Inside is the mutilated body of a young woman, nude from the waist down, shoved into the bag and left afloat in the water. The victim is soon identified as 28-year-old Marilyn Decker. In life, Marilyn was complicated in the way a lot of people are. She'd started the year working as a vet tech at a local veterinary office. Steady job, routine, a sense of direction. But in the 6 months before her death, things began to spiral. According to investigators, she fell in with the wrong crowd, started using drugs, and began spending more time on Davie Boulevard and State Road 7, hanging around places like a laundromat near US 441. That was her world in 1987. Late nights, new faces, and people who didn't always have good intentions. The autopsy reveals just how brutal the crime was. Marilyn had been asphyxiated, killed first, and then mutilated after death. The violence is personal, the kind that tells detectives they're not dealing with a simple robbery or a heat-of-the-moment fight. Someone took their time. Someone enjoyed inflicting harm. For the Davie Police Department, this isn't just a murder. It looks like the work of someone deeply dangerous. Detectives do what they can with 1980s technology. They collect fibers, hairs, and a bloody towel found with the evidence. They photograph everything, log every detail, and talk to anyone who might have seen Marilyn in her final hours. They learn she'd been seen around that laundromat and that she may have left with someone she trusted, someone she felt comfortable enough to eat with, relax with. Her sister would later say that when she saw Marilyn's body at the morgue, her fingernails were neatly clipped and manicured, and her stomach was full. Marilyn hadn't been grabbed off the street immediately. She'd spent time with someone before things turned deadly. But for all the interviews and all the evidence, the case runs into a wall. The hairs collected from Marilyn's shirt and from that bloody towel are carefully preserved. But in 1987, the DNA is too weak, too degraded to speak clearly. The technology simply isn't there. The best detectives can do is hold on to what they have and hope that one day science will catch up. As the months turn into years, leads dry up, witnesses move, memories fade, and Marilyn's case slowly joins a growing list of cold files in Davie. For her family, though, it never goes cold. They carry the weight of what happened through every holiday, every birthday, every quiet moment when they wonder not just why she died, but who did this to her, and whether he ever hurt anyone else. Decades pass, the world changes. DNA goes from a brand new concept to the backbone of modern forensic science. Across the country, cold cases are being reopened and solved with technology that detectives in the 80s could only dream about. And in 2021, the Davie Police Department decides it's time to give Marilyn's case that same chance. They form a cold case unit and assign Detective Eddie Velasquez to her file. Velasquez pulls out the old boxes, crime scene photos, reports, logs, physical evidence. Among those items are the hairs and the towel that were collected back in 1987 and then frozen in time. Today, those pieces of evidence are gold. They're shipped to a modern lab that specializes in extracting DNA from old, degraded samples. Technicians work carefully, pulling every possible genetic clue from the hairs and the towel that once seemed useless. And finally, after nearly 4 decades, the evidence speaks. The lab finds that several of the hairs share the same male DNA profile. It's strong enough to move to the next step, genetic genealogy. A specialist builds out a family tree from that profile, working backwards through relatives, cousins, and distant branches until one name rises to the top, a man who once lived in Davie, Florida. His name is Donald Lawless. Lawless is not some unknown drifter. He has a criminal history stretching back to the 1940s. Burglaries, theft, auto theft, robbery, fraud, battery, prostitution. A lifelong offender. Records show that during the 80s, he was living in Florida, including in Davie. At the time Marilyn was murdered, he lived about half a mile from the area where she spent time, near that laundromat, near the places she hung out. He was right there, in her orbit. Davie investigators tracked down one of Lawless's relatives and obtaining a DNA sample. When that sample is compared to the DNA from Marilyn's case, the answer is unmistakable. It matches. The same genetic signature in those hairs on her shirt and that towel belongs to Lawless. Based on the genealogy work, the DNA match, his location at the time, and his violent history, detectives and prosecutors conclude that he's the man who killed Marilyn Decker. There's one problem. Lawless is dead for 30 years. He died of natural causes in Ohio in 1995 and was cremated. He never faced trial.
He never saw the inside of a courtroom for Marilyn's murder. But even in death, the system can still name him. The Broward County State Attorney's Office reviews the evidence and determines there is enough to charge him posthumously with her killing. The Davie Police Department announces to the public that after 38 years, the 1987 murder of 28-year-old Marilyn Decker has been solved. Velasquez doesn't mince words when he talks about Lawless. In interviews, he calls him a complete monster and makes it clear he doesn't believe this was his only crime. The way Marilyn was killed, the asphyxiation, the post-mortem mutilation, the way her body was sealed in a bag and dumped in a canal, looks like a signature, not a one-off explosion of violence. Investigators suspect Lawless may be connected to at least 2 other similar murders of women found in South Florida canals in the 1980s, and possibly other crimes across the country, from Ohio to Chicago and beyond. For her family, though, the announcement is a mix of relief and heartbreak. There's no trial to attend, no sentencing to watch, no moment where they see the man responsible led away in handcuffs. But there is something powerful about finally having a name. The question that has haunted them since 1987, who did this, is no longer a mystery. They know who took Marilyn's life, and they know he didn't get away with it forever. His freedom ended in 1995. His anonymity ended in 2024. In the end, Marilyn's case becomes more than just a local story. It's part of a larger truth about cold cases. Evidence collected carefully by detectives who never lived to see this day, stored and preserved for decades, is finally decoded by technology that didn't exist when she was alive. A few hairs on a shirt, a towel stained with blood, a file reopened by one determined